Hi, I'm Marley's. My sister spent my entire house fund on a car, and my parents helped her do it. They didn't warn me, they didn't ask. They toasted her like she won the lottery, while I stood in the driveway, invisible, holding a bank app that showed $127.43. And when I spoke up, they called me cold, ungrateful, said I was overreacting. But what if I told you that wasn't even the worst part? What if the real betrayal started years ago with a job offer I never knew I got, a boyfriend they pushed away, and a house deed they secretly changed? Ever wonder what happens when the quiet daughter finally stops being quiet? It was just past 6 when I stepped out onto the balcony. The spring air in East Austin still held some warmth, but there was a strange chill under my skin that I couldn't explain yet. I had my usual routine: herbal tea in one hand, phone in the other, and the weight of a long week pressing behind my eyes. I'd pulled 3 double shifts that week alone, anything to push closer to the down payment for the house I'd been dreaming about since I was 25. I was close, so close I could taste the quiet. Then the alert came through. Just a quiet ping, like any other. But I knew something was wrong before I even tapped it. The screen loaded, and there it was. My balance: $127.43. I blinked. Hit refresh. Did it again? Nothing changed. I sat down slowly, like my legs didn't trust me anymore. Where the hell was my money? I called the bank immediately. The hold music was cheerful and entirely inappropriate. I don't even remember what I said when the agent finally answered. Just the words "First Home Fund" and my account number. My voice didn't shake, but something inside me started crumbling. He said the withdrawal had been processed 2 days earlier. $50,000. Cleared and gone. I asked, by who? He hesitated. There was a family authorization, Mom. Your mother is listed as a trusted user. My mother. He explained it like it was normal, like this was something I should have seen coming. As if a mother emptying her daughter's life savings for family reasons was just banking as usual. I barely said thank you before hanging up. I sat there for another minute, listening to my tea get cold. By the time I grabbed my car keys, it was raining. Not a storm, not yet, just that fine Texas drizzle that makes the streets slick without warning. My hands were shaking, but I drove anyway, windshield wipers thumping in time with my heartbeat. Somewhere along I-35, I saw it. A red sports car, weaving confidently between lanes, top down in the drizzle, like it didn't give a damn about the weather or anything else. The vanity plate said C-Lista. I recognized it before I even processed it. Callista. Of course. I didn't need confirmation, but it arrived anyway. By the time I pulled into my parents' driveway, my phone buzzed again. A notification from Callista's Instagram. I clicked it without thinking. There she was spinning in front of that same red car, the driveway behind her, unmistakable. Caption: manifested it, earned it, drove it home. Boss life. I barely had time to put my phone down before I saw them. Velda, my mother, glass of wine in hand. Lowell, my father, clapping Callista on the back like she'd landed a 6-figure job, not burned through someone else's future. They didn't see me at first. Callista tossed her hair over her shoulder, laughing. Then she looked up, and that smirk. The same one she had when she used to blame me for the broken vase in 3rd grade. I knew it too well. You made it, she said, like I was late to a party I didn't RSVP to. Velda walked over and pulled her into a hug. We're so proud of her, she said to no one in particular. She deserves this, after everything she's been through. I was 5 feet away. Nobody looked at me, not even once. I didn't say a word. Not because I was afraid, because I was done. Done explaining, done waiting to be acknowledged, done being the daughter who always understood. So I turned around and walked back to my car. On the drive home, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just planned. When I got back to my apartment, I opened my laptop and started printing every single bank record I could find. I labeled the folder Receipts, not because I needed to prove anything to them, but because I was going to remind myself that silence wasn't weakness. That next time I spoke, it would not be with my voice. It would be with evidence. By the time I made it back to my apartment, my jeans were clinging to my legs, and my blouse was soaked through. I didn't even bother changing. The drive home was mostly a blur wet roads, red taillights, the distant thrum of thunder. What stuck with me wasn't the weather. It was the image of my mother and sister raising champagne flutes beside a car that cost more than every rent check I'd ever written combined. I kicked off my shoes, dropped my bag onto the floor, and walked straight to my desk. The screen blinked to life as I powered on my laptop. I opened the banking app again, not because I thought anything had changed, but because I needed to see it. I needed to feel the truth dig in all over again. $127.43. I scrolled through the transaction history slowly. 50,000 gone. Labeled authorized withdrawal. My mother's name. It labeled the account First Home Fund, like putting a little flag on a dream, thinking it would protect it from being stolen. Turns out, dreams don't come with passwords. The light from the screen was the only thing glowing in the dark apartment. It cast my reflection onto the window in front of me. Wet hair, tired eyes, a face trying not to fall apart. I clicked open Instagram. Don't ask me why. Maybe part of me wanted to see if there was an explanation, a joke, a caption that said, "Just kidding." But no. There she was, Callista posing beside the car in that same driveway. Same angle, same lighting. "Grind never stops," her caption said. Self-made queen, self-made. I stared at that word for a long time. It sat there on my screen like it owned something, like it hadn't climbed up my back to get where it was. She stood in front of the car with one hand on her hip, the other flipping her hair, while I sat there in the dark with a half-empty life and a full inbox of overdraft alerts. The email arrived around midnight. Subject line, FYI, title change notice. It was from Natalie, a realtor I'd worked with before. She knew I was planning to buy a place, had even helped me scout a couple fixer-uppers just last month. The message was short. Not sure if this is your family, but noticed your parents' address flagged for reassignment. Buyer listed as C. Vesper. I didn't breathe as I opened the county database. There it was, Callista's name, on the home I'd been promised since I was 26. The house Velda once said would be mine when the time was right. The same house where I learned to ride a bike, scraped my knees on the driveway, and planted rose bushes that still bloomed every spring. It was all being handed over without a word. I leaned back in my chair and let the silence wrap around me. 5 years ago, I'd sat on the back porch with Velda while she smoked a menthol and watched the sky go pink behind the oak trees. She told me, "Callista's not the settling down type, honey. When the time comes, we'll make sure you have the house. You're the one who shows up." Back then, I believed that meant something. I believed that showing up counted. Now, the deed said otherwise. I spent the next hour screenshotting everything: the bank statements, Callista's smug Instagram post, the county property transfer record. I organized it into folders, labeled with the precision I use to bring to audits at work. My emotions were folded up tightly, like documents I didn't have time to read yet. When I finished, I opened a text thread I hadn't touched in months. "Aubrey, you were right. I need help. Are you free tomorrow?" The message sent. Read receipt popped up almost immediately. I dragged the folder to my desktop and renamed it Exhibit A for when they pretend they forgot. I didn't feel angry in that moment. Just surgical. Like it stepped out of the story and into the role of its editor. I couldn't rewrite the betrayal, but I could write how it ended, because pretending is what they've always done best. I didn't sleep, not really. I just laid there, watching the ceiling shift shades with the rising sun. My mind ran loops: Callista's smirk, the bank balance, Velda's voice saying, "She deserves this." When the first light hit my bookshelf, I got up and made coffee. Not because I needed it, but because doing something, anything, felt better than sitting still. While it brewed, I opened the folder from the night before. Each screenshot, each bank record, each property document stared back like puzzle pieces to a story I wasn't supposed to solve. Looking for an old tax form, I pulled out a storage bin I hadn't opened since I moved into this apartment. Inside were college notebooks, a faded campus hoodie, and a stack of manila envelopes. One envelope had my handwriting on it, summer internship apps, but there was another, still sealed, that I didn't recognize. It had my name, the correct address, and a postmark, July 2nd, 2017. The return address said Midwest Policy Fellowship, Chicago. I froze. That fellowship was a long shot alight, career-defining. ID applied on a whim, told Velda about it, and then nothing. I'd assumed I hadn't made the cut. That's what she said when I asked. Hands trembling, I tore it open. Congratulations! We are pleased to offer you a full placement. I didn't read the rest. I didn't need to. My knees buckled. I sat right there on the floor, letter clutched to my chest like it was too late for it to matter, which maybe it was. I remembered that summer too clearly. Callista had just flunked out again. Velda was in one of her headaches. I'd stayed to help, took a local admin job, skipped the lease I was about to sign. She told me, real family shows up when it's messy. What she meant was, stay. She never gave me the letter, never told me I got in. She let me believe I wasn't good enough. It hit me then that this wasn't an isolated lie. It was a pattern. Every time I got close to something that was nearly mine, someone in my family found a way to rewrite the story. The scholarship I turned down because we needed you close. The apartment I didn't take because it's too far. What if someone needs you? The boyfriend I stopped seeing because Velda said he wasn't right for our kind of family. I sat on the edge of the bed, eyes dry, jaw locked. They didn't just steal money. They stole time, trajectories, pieces of me I never got to become. By mid-morning, I texted Aubrey. She replied with an address and the words, "I've been waiting for this." We met at a cafe tucked into the corner of a quiet street. She wore no makeup, hair in a messy bun, but her eyes were sharp as ever. I slid the letter across the table. She read it, expressionless, then tapped her phone twice and pulled up county records again. "It's worse than I thought," she muttered. "The house title change was filed during the same month your sister quit her third job. Someone was laying groundwork." I nodded. "We need to pull the deeds, all of them." She looked at me over the rim of her coffee. "Marlies, are you ready to do this? Because once we start pulling strings, people lose their grip." "They've already pulled the strings," I said. "I'm just untying the knots." That night, back home, I opened my journal. It had been a while since I wrote anything, but this time, I didn't need to vent. I needed to remember. They didn't just steal money, they stole who I could have become. I closed the book, but my mind didn't stop. Because if they'd hidden this, what else had they rewritten? I never thought a paper envelope could hurt more than a zeroed-out bank account. I was folding laundry when the call came in. My cousin Jamie, who I hadn't spoken to in over a year, rang with her usual bubbly tone. We made awkward small talk for a minute or two before she slipped. "Can't wait to see you Saturday. Callista's party's gonna be huge. She finally deserves a win, right?" My fingers paused mid-fold. "What party?" There was a brief silence. She stammered. "Oh, two, thought you knew." I didn't. She tried to backpedal, said something about probably being on a different guest list, but Eid stopped listening. After we hung up, I stared at the pile of clothes on my bed and felt the weight shift, not heavier, not lighter, just tighter. Like something in me had wrapped one loop too many around a place that still hurt. I didn't need to be there, but I was going anyway. That Saturday, I chose a plain black dress. No makeup, just mascara and lip balm. I didn't want to make a statement. I wanted to see it with my own eyes. I parked 2 blocks away and walked. The neighborhood buzzed with music, and parked cars lined the street like it was a wedding. When I turned the corner, I could already see the glow from string lights in the backyard. Balloons, a tent. Laughter carrying through the air like it didn't belong to people capable of erasing their own. I stood near the hedge for a while, watching. No one noticed me. I could have left, but something in my gut said, "Witness it. Own the memory, don't let them feed you another story about what happened." Then I walked up the driveway. Callista was in the center of it all, of course. Hair done like she was attending a gala, wearing a dress that still had store creases down the side. She waved dramatically at a group of friends I didn't recognize, then pointed to the red car like it had risen from the driveway by divine command. Velda stood nearby, beaming like a pageant mom. When she clinked her glass, people hushed. "She's been through so much," Velda said, eyes misty. But she stayed strong. She's the rock this family needed when everything else was falling apart. A few claps. Callista wiped a fake tear. My jaw didn't drop. My hands didn't shake. I just stood still, letting it burn into me. No one turned toward me. No one noticed the woman who held this house together during the years Callista kept quitting. I had shown up when Velda was sick. I had mowed this lawn, painted this fence, paid their electric bills in silence. None of that got a toast. Inside the house, I found the wall. It was a new addition, a massive canvas collage called Family Through the Years. The frames had been professionally printed. Christmas 2011, Easter 2014, Callista's high school graduation, where I held the camera the whole time. But I wasn't in a single one. I moved closer. In the rare photos where I had originally been, my spot was now occupied by someone else. In one, they'd cropped me out entirely and enlarged Callista's smile to fill the frame. I didn't cry. On the way out, I passed a little girl standing near the red sports car. She tugged on her mom's dress and pointed. "I want that one when I grow up." Her mom laughed. "Only if you work hard enough, sweetie." I bit my lip and kept walking. Not everything that shines is earned. Some things are handed over, stolen in silence, and celebrated like miracles. Back in the kitchen, no one noticed me slip in. I placed the envelope on the counterplane, white, sealed. Inside was a photo from 2012. The three of us, me, Velda, and Lowell, sitting on the porch steps. I was centered between them, holding their hands, laughing. It was the only time I remember feeling like someone's daughter and not their accountant. On the back, in my handwriting, I'd written, "You used to remember." I didn't leave a note. Just the photo. They celebrated her theft like it was ambition and erased me like I was never real. The next morning, I told myself I was just stopping by to pick up some old tax documents. That was the official reason, the excuse I rehearsed. But deep down, I knew exactly why I was really there. I needed to see their faces. I needed to know if they would flinch, if they would feel even a flicker of shame. When I pulled into the driveway, everything looked unchanged. Same cracked sidewalk, same wind chime swaying in the breeze. But inside, I already knew everything had shifted. The moment I pushed open the door, I was met not with silence or remorse, but with laughter. Loud, relaxed, coffee and cake kind of laughter, the kind that comes when people feel secure in their cruelty. From the living room, I heard Callista's voice. "I swear, I thought she was gonna cry," she said, laughing through her words. She just stood there, like she didn't know what hit her. Velda chimed in, her voice full of smug amusement. "She always did overreact. But she'll come around. She always does." I stepped into the room, letting my presence settle before I spoke. Callista looked over her shoulder, completely unfazed. "Well, speak of the devil." Velda didn't skip a beat. "Marlis, sweetheart, you want some cake?" "There's still plenty left." "No, thank you," I replied, my voice flat and unreadable. That's when Velda stood, casually walked over to the bookshelf, and picked up a tiny brass key from the old ceramic bowl we always used for spare change and paper clips. She walked back and handed it to Callista. "You're the one we trust to manage things now," she said with the gentleness of a mother handing down pearls, as if this was some noble rite of passage. Callista grinned, twirling the key between her fingers like a child who'd won a game she barely played. "Guess him the responsible one now." I let the silence sit. Let them bask in it. Let them believe, for a moment, that I was still the one who swallowed her pride and smiled anyway. Then I spoke. "I don't need the key," I said quietly. "I already have the receipts." Velda paused mid-sip. "Receipts?" I turned to my father. "The bank records, the property transfer, the forged job letter with my name at the bottom, the one you never told me about." Lowell cleared his throat and sat up straighter. Your mother handled all that. I just signed the forms. Right, I said. Like signing away $50,000 from my savings was no different than approving the electric bill. Like your daughter wasn't even worth a phone call. Marlise, don't twist this. No, I said, sharper now. You signed my money away like it was a family coupon. Like I was the safety net you could bounce on without ever checking if I was still there. Velda stiffened, her tone turning defensive. You've always been the one we could count on. That hasn't changed. Yes, it has, I answered. You didn't count on me. You counted on me staying quiet. Callista let out a little snort. So what now? You're gonna sue your own parents. No, I said calmly. But I'm done pretending this is love. And with that, the room went silent. Not awkward. Not tense. Silent. The kind of silence that suffocates, that lets you feel just how wide the distance has grown between blood and trust. I don't owe you grace just because we share a last name, I added, my voice steady. Next time you touch anything tied to my Name Me accounts, my credit, my property, I won't just speak. I'll act. Velda didn't say a word. Her jaw clenched and her eyes dropped just for a second. Callista shrugged like none of this mattered, but I saw the twitch in her fingers, the way her smile faltered at the edges. She felt it. She knew something had shifted. I turned to go, but just before I reached the door, I paused, gave one last glance back. It's not even the betrayal that stings, I said. It's the fact that you laughed while the knife was still in. I didn't slam the door behind me. I didn't need to. Some things echo louder in stillness. Back in the car, I sat in the driver's seat, the morning sun hitting the windshield, lighting everything up too brightly. I pulled out my phone and typed a message to Aubrey. Get me everything on the house title, and check if they've used my name on anything else loans, credit, taxes, all of it. I hit send. The message blinked once, then disappeared into the digital void. But something told me that was the last time I'd be the one sitting in the shadows. They thought I wouldn't follow through, that I'd swallow it like I always did. But they were wrong, because soon the letters would stop coming. And the bills? They'd start piling up under their names this time. And for once, I wouldn't be the one cleaning up the mess. By the end of that week, the truth was no longer just a gnawing suspicion. I had evidence, receipts, paper trails that confirmed what my gut had screamed the night of the birthday party. Aubrey met me in her law office, a narrow, neatly organized space, tucked between a florist and a nail salon in a forgotten corner of Riverside. The kind of place you'd overlook, just like I'd been. She greeted me with a nod, no smile. That's how I knew it was serious. She slid a stack of papers across the desk and tapped her pen twice against the top page, like a gavel calling court to order. Your mother filed the property title reassignment 6 months ago, she said, her voice flat. Long before the party, long before the dress, the speech, the cake. I stared at the bold ink spelling out Callista's name on what used to be my inheritance. It looked official, cold, like a contract with betrayal written in the margins. They were planning this, I murmured, unable to lift my eyes from the page. They weren't just planning it, Aubrey replied. They were counting on your silence, on your loyalty. That afternoon, I drove to the bank. No radio, no podcasts. Just the hum of my tires against the asphalt and the occasional creak of the AC vent. My hands were steady, but my heart thudded like it had somewhere else to be. At the counter, the clerk greeted me with her usual cheer, but I didn't return the pleasantries. I handed over my ID, slid a note listing the accounts to be closed, and when she asked for a reason, I simply said, I no longer share my future with people who write me out of it. Within 20 minutes, everything was gone. I severed all ties, every joint account, every emergency fund, every quiet financial safety net I had ever provided my parents. I pulled my name from anything they could touch. It wasn't revenge. It was survival. 2 days later, Velda called. Marlise, she gasped, voice frantic like she'd been running. The mortgage payment bounced. Your father's pharmacy card, it's not working. He needs his insulin. I listened, but I didn't flinch. Not anymore. This, I said calmly, is what accountability feels like. And I ended the call. She tried again. And again. I didn't pick up. 3 nights later, I heard the knock. I was folding laundry in the living room. The window cracked just enough for the heat to escape. The night air carried in the scent of jasmine and distant rain. Then I heard shouting. Raised voices outside, angry, panicked. And then, 2 sharp pounds on the door. Open the damn door, Marlies! I didn't hurry. I collected the folder I'd prepared, the one labeled Proof in thick marker, and walked to the front door slowly, with intention. When I opened it, Velda stood on the porch in a cardigan that sagged like it hadn't seen a washing machine in weeks. Her hair was unbrushed, eyes puffy. Callista was barefoot, her arms crossed, fury written across her face. "You're trying to destroy us!" Callista snapped, stepping forward like she belonged inside. I blocked the doorway with my body. "No," I said evenly. "I'm trying to stop you from destroying me." Velda's lips quivered. "Your father hasn't slept in days. We had to ask your uncle for help. We're your family." I lifted the folder like it was the final act in a disappearing trick, then opened it. Inside were the notarized title transfers, copies of forged credit card applications, screenshots of Callista using my personal information to lease a condo, email trails, bank notices tied to my SSN, flagged for fraud. Every line told the same story. They hadn't just cut me out. They tried to bury me with the paperwork. Velda went ghost white. "Callista?" She didn't even blink. "If you ever use my name again," I said slowly, clearly, "I won't hand over evidence next time. I'll hand over subpoenas." Callista sneered. "You think you've won?" Her voice trembled with rage. "You think this makes you better than us?" I tilted my head. "No," I said. "It makes me free." They stood there, waiting, maybe for me to cry, maybe for me to change my mind. But I didn't. I shut the door. I went back to my desk, picked up my phone, and texted Aubrey. Next step, pull all financial ties. Dig deep. I want every account, every cosign, every signature. She responded within seconds. Already on it. I thought that would be the end of it. But it never ends like that. When you cut off abusers, they don't surrender. They escalate. I woke up to 37 missed calls, voicemails, texts, none from actual contacts, but enough from random area codes to make my skin crawl. I didn't answer any of them. I didn't need to. The digital noise wasn't even the worst part. That came from a friend, Rachel, who sent me a screenshot around 10 a.m. It was Velda's latest Facebook post, captioned beneath a photo of Callista, holding a charity check in front of our family home, like she'd just founded the Red Cross. "So proud of my one and only girl," the post read. The comment section was a shrine of praise. "She's been through so much, always knew she'd shine, a real fighter." I closed the app. Not in anger, in something colder. It wasn't just the lie they'd started rewriting the entire narrative without me in it. I stepped outside to get groceries. Just 5 minutes of air. Just the basics. Eggs, bread, coffee. I walked past a neighbor I barely knew, an older woman named Joanne, who'd once waved to me when I carried up packages for her. She looked up from trimming her hedge. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart," she said gently. "What your family's going through, it's awful. They said you're suing them?" I stopped mid-step. "They said what?" Her eyes widened. "Oh, I thought it was just something Velda mentioned in church. You know how rumors spread." I nodded slowly. Right. Rumors. When I got back to my apartment, I didn't take off my shoes. I just stood in the kitchen, heart beating low and steady like the hum of the fridge. And then came the knock. Not a casual knock, not a please open the door knock. It was the kind of pounding that's more threat than request. Velda's voice came through the door. "Marlies, we need to talk." Then Callista. "Come on, you've made your point." I opened the door. Velda was holding a manila folder with bold Sharpie scribbled across the front. Resolution plan. They walked in like they still owned the room. "We're here to settle this," Velda said. "You've gone too far. We've drafted a family agreement. Just a few items we'd like you to review," Callista added. "It's just reinstating the cards. And access. To smooth things over." I said nothing. Velda's voice tightened. "We raised you, Marlis. You wouldn't have a dime to your name if we hadn't put food in your mouth." I met her stare. "No. You mined me. You extracted everything useful and called it parenting." Callista laughed. "You're just bitter because I shine brighter." I stepped forward. "No. You reflect whatever mom gives you. That's not shine. That's dependence. The kind of life where you need other people's bank accounts to stay relevant." Velda raised her voice. "Don't you dare talk to your sister like that. She's done more with her setbacks than you've ever done with your pride." "My pride is what kept your lights on," I said. "And you never said thank you." Callista crossed her arms. "We're trying to make peace. You're choosing war. You want my money, not peace. Don't dress this up with family values and empty apologies." They left. Not with a slammed door, but with muttered curses and pointed looks. But when I opened my mailbox later that evening, I knew they weren't finished. Inside were printed copies of my credit reports. All 3 bureaus. Anonymous, but clipped together with precision. And a sticky note, in red ink. "You want war? You've got it." I gave them a chance to back off. Instead, they declared war and forgot I was done playing nice. The courthouse lot was nearly empty when I pulled in just after sunrise. I stayed in the car, watching as men in jackets with clipboards and cell phones moved like clockwork. Foreclosure auctions don't look like courtroom drama, they look like paperwork. Legalese. Folders passed hand to hand without a glance up. Aubrey had already gone inside. She was handling the bidding through a legal proxy, as planned. I'd wired the certified funds the night before. I wasn't here to raise my hand. I was here to witness the moment my history stopped belonging to them. When she texted me just 2 words, "It's yours," exhaled like it'd been underwater. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just drove. The house stood quiet when I pulled up, ironic. How still it looked. The same beige siding, same mailbox with the crooked Vesper nameplate. But today, I had the deed in my purse. Today, it was mine. I walked through the front door alone. No fanfare. No champagne. The air inside was stale, thick with silence. Furniture still in place, like the house itself hadn't heard the news. I passed the hall where my high school photos used to hang. Most were gone now. Callista's face replaced mine in almost every frame that remained. I paused in the living room, staring at the blank spot where a family portrait used to be. My space in that photo had always been off to the edge, never centered, always the background. Now I stood in the center of the room, completely alone, and Eid never felt more grounded. 2 days later, they came back. Velda showed up in a beige pantsuit like she still ran a church committee. Callista wore oversized sunglasses, despite the fact it was cloudy. They didn't knock, they rang the doorbell twice, hard, and waited like they were the ones who owned something. I opened the door slowly. Neither of them had the guts to speak first. "You bought it out from under us," Callista hissed. "You're stealing it from your own family." I stepped onto the porch, closed the door gently behind me. "No," I said. "I bought what you were willing to let go." Velda's eyes narrowed. "You're bitter, still hung up on things that happened years ago. Probably still holding on to that boy from Chicago, too. That landed harder than I expected." "No," I answered. "But I do remember how you told him I'd never be able to take care of him. That he deserved someone less ambitious." Her mouth opened, then shut again. "I'm bitter," I added, "because you didn't just let me lose things. You made sure I never had a chance at them in the first place." They stood there a beat longer. "I'm giving you 7 days to remove your belongings," I continued. "After that, I change the locks." Velda scoffed. "You'd really kick your own mother out onto the street? I offered you names of 3 housing assistance programs." You can use one. Or not. That part's up to you. Callista started crying. Not loud, not performative, just real enough to sting. I was your sister, she whispered. You're acting like I never existed. I looked her straight in the eye. You were my sister, and you used that role like a knife. They left without slamming the door. I didn't follow them. That night, I stood in the kitchen and watched the streetlights flicker through the window. I held the keys in one hand, the keys that had once been denied to me. Now they clicked against my palm like punctuation. When I turned the bolt and locked the front door behind me, it felt like closing a chapter. A clean one. This wasn't about taking something from them. It was about taking it back for me. The morning sun spilled softly through the windows of my living room, casting golden light onto the hardwood floors I'd chosen myself. Not inherited, not borrowed. Mine. The curtains were plain white, no lace, no frills, no patterns to remind me of anyone else's taste. Just clean, open space, and the soft hush of a home finally free of judgment. I walked barefoot to the kitchen, each step echoing gently, like the house was learning to recognize only my rhythm now. I poured a cup of coffee and sat by the small round table next to the window. The oak tree in the front yard stood exactly where it always had, but today it looked different. Stronger, maybe. Or maybe I was. That was the tree I once fell out of as a kid, chasing a squirrel or a dreamy can't remember which. My father had yelled at me for climbing too high, and my mother had taken a picture of me crying in the grass. That photo never went into an album. It was never framed. I think she kept it only to prove a point. But I didn't need photographs anymore. I didn't need their versions of memory. My life, my scars, my stories, those were all the proof I needed. Later that day, I wandered into a used bookstore downtown. The kind of place with cracked spines and shelves too tight to walk through, without brushing against the past. I hadn't planned to go. I was just drawn to it. Like I needed to hear silence that wasn't mine. That's where I saw Mr. Harland. His back was a little more hunched, his hair thinner, but the warmth in his voice hadn't aged a day. Well, look who kept reading, he said, peering over the rim of his glasses. I blinked, startled by how quickly his face unlocked something in me. You remember me? Of course, he smiled. You always read ahead, even when no one clapped for it. He didn't ask about my family. He didn't bring up the past. Instead, we talked about books, about characters who made brave decisions in quiet moments, about how some people make noise to be seen and others live with integrity that doesn't demand applause. You did it the hard way, he said, but you did it. And for the first time in years, I believed it. That evening, I returned home with a calm I hadn't known I was missing. I sat at my desk and pulled out a blank note card. Not to send, not to share, just to release. I began to write, Velda, I don't hate you. I pity the woman who built her legacy on the silence of a daughter she refused to see. You taught me more than I think you meant to, mostly by showing me exactly the kind of person I never want to be. I didn't sign it. I didn't seal it. I carried it to the porch, placed it in a ceramic bowl, and watched as the flame ate away the last of it. The smoke curled upward, twisting into the night like a breath it held in since I was a teenager. In the days that followed, the world reacted. A slow stream of texts from friends. Have you seen Callista's GoFundMe? It was titled, Help Our Family Heal. The narrative painted her as a discarded daughter, battling illness and abandonment. There was no mention of forged signatures, no mention of whose housewarming she had hosted, just curated pity and selective memory. Neighbors began to whisper. Some stopped looking me in the eye. One note appeared on my windshield. You should be ashamed. But I wasn't. I'd carried their shame for years. Let them wear their own now. They could tell their story. I had finally chosen mine. One quiet evening, Aubrey stopped by. She brought a pie and 2 mismatched mugs. We sat on the porch, the late spring breeze brushing past us. No need for small talk. No need to name the wounds out loud. After a long silence, she said, You did it. And you didn't become them to win. I smiled. Not big, not performative, just real. That night, after she left, I stepped outside again. The stars were out sharp, stubborn, and far. No porch lights, just me and the dark sky above. I stood in the middle of the yard, barefoot, toes against the cool earth, and I whispered not to anyone, not even to myself, really. They built the fire, but I learned to walk through it. And I had. I didn't crave revenge anymore. I didn't need them to see me, or validate me, or even remember me. I just wanted space to breathe. Forgiveness, I've learned, isn't always some grand doorway you open. Sometimes it's just the wall you finally stop trying to tear down. And in that stillness, I could feel it peace. Not loud, not wrapped in a bow, but mine. Sometimes peace doesn't come from apologies or tidy endings, it comes from deciding you no longer need either. I spent years trying to earn love by staying quiet, by caring more than anyone saw. But silence didn't protect me. It erased me. If you're watching this and you've ever felt like the outsider in your own family, I want you to hear this. You are not selfish for choosing yourself. You are not cruel for setting boundaries. You are not wrong for refusing to keep paying for other people's comfort with your dignity. What they took from me wasn't just money or a house. It was the belief that I didn't have a right to say no. Taking that power back wasn't easy, but it was worth everything. Because the moment I stopped asking for space and started claiming it, my life changed. So let me ask you, have you ever let guilt talk you out of your own future? Have you ever kept quiet to keep the peace only to lose yourself in the silence? I'd love to hear your story. Drop a comment below. If this video moved you, type 1, or tell me what city you're watching from. If it didn't speak to you, let me know why. I welcome real talk here. And if you want to hear more stories like this, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. Real voices, real lives, right here.